She set up this illegal server knowing full well that her actions put our national security at risk. And it's everybody's deepest hope that justice, at last, will be beautifully delivered.
In 2016, Donald Trump relentlessly attacked Hillary Clinton over her use of a private email server to handle government business while she was Secretary of State. Fast forward 8 years, and now the president-elect has a private email issue of his own. According to Politico, Trump's transition team is conducting business through private emails, and federal officials are sounding the alarms. Federal officials say they're worried about sharing documents via email with Trump's transition team because the incoming officials are eschewing government devices, email addresses, and cybersecurity support, raising fears that they could potentially expose sensitive government data. The private emails have agency employees considering insisting on in-person meetings and document exchanges that they otherwise would have conducted electronically. Joining me now is Heath Brown, who's an associate professor of public policy at CUNY's John Jay College of Criminal Justice. He is also the author of Roadblock, Joe Biden's Rocky Transition to the Presidency. Heath, thank you for being here tonight, Professor. First, just talk to me about, you've written about the subject of presidential transitions, and in the context of that process, how much of a challenge is something like this?
It's a huge challenge. In 2020, it was one of the most important things that the Biden-Harris transition team worried about. They worried constantly about being hacked. The reason for that was 4 years earlier. The hacks undid the Clinton campaign in some ways. And so they thought about it all the time and worried about it a lot. That this incoming transition team isn't worrying about in the same way raises some major, major questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if hacks aren't a major issue right now, right? There was Salt Typhoon, the Chinese hack of the American telecom system, which was maybe the most significant attack on American telecom ever, or even American information systems. There are the Iranian hacks of public officials, candidates, including Donald Trump and I believe Kamala Harris. I mean, from the perspective of foreign interference, how permeable, do you think it is for the Trump administration and the transition to be using private, Gmail accounts?
We don't know exactly what the risks are, but what we do know is that the federal government, specifically the General Services Administration, has been ready to help. They've been ready to help for a year and already organized and prepared the kinds of technology that would be helpful to deal with the cyber threats that the incoming administration is facing. That the incoming administration isn't availing themselves of that help raises major, major issues. Why wouldn't you accept the help of an agency that understands this issue, that is prepared for this issue, and is willing to provide you with that assistance? I think that's really important right now.
Do you have a theory? It is a pressing question, and it's coming as the Pentagon is, I think, issuing multiple reports into Elon Musk and whether he should have the top secret classified information access that he does because of his sort of undisclosed meetings with foreign leaders. How much are you connecting the dots there to the Trump transition team not wanting to use secure government servers for their correspondence?
Yeah, I think for a long time it's been clear that President-elect Trump has a deep, deep distrust and has a deep paranoia about what it might be made available related to the conversations that his transition team is having. I think this is the main reason why they've opted not to use the federal support. They're concerned that using the GSA email addresses will make that information subpoenaable should the cause arise. And I think they're trying to protect themselves because of how deeply distrustful they are of so much of the operations of the federal government. I think that's really the crux of the issue. I think that distrust isn't well-founded, but I think that is one of the hallmarks of this incoming administration.
And I would assume it also makes it difficult from the point of view of a Presidential Records Act, right? I mean, he is not president yet, but I would assume that his sort of digital hygiene doesn't necessarily get better when he's president, given Trump's track record of, taking classified documents with him down to Mar-a-Lago, and, Mark Meadows, as chief of staff, burning documents in the fireplace, Trump ripping up documents, sending them down the toilet, his staff having to tape back documents that he had torn into pieces. This is not someone who has a particular allegiance to the notion of keeping records for the archives, for history, for the American people. Do you see this as problematic in terms of the longer lens of history and understanding the machinations of the Trump administration in the future?
Yeah, right now this is a nonprofit organization that's running the transition, so they can make the decisions about what emails they use. It doesn't project very well into the post-January 20th administration. It suggests that they're not ready to trust and adhere to the law in the way that they should. All of those transparency rules that we have don't apply to the transition period. And so we know very little about what's going on right now, and we probably never will. We, for example, don't really know all of the people involved in this transition. The names haven't been made public in any kind of complete way. There are landing teams spread out across the government right now. We don't really know who they are, whether they're following the kinds of concerns about conflicts of interest and ethics that have always marked this time period. And so this does suggest some concerns for the future once the administration is up and running.
And just on a practical level, because government efficiency is such a hobby horse of the incoming Trump administration, you know better than I, but I would assume if you cannot look at any of the incoming information, classified or sensitive, digitally, if it cannot be emailed to you, and you literally, because you're not using, the government services to keep that information secure, you have to go physically to a location and go to a secure room or do an in-person meeting, that would slow down a transition greatly, would it not?
No doubt. This is all about cooperation, and anything that's done to slow down cooperation is a concern. Related to that is the question of exactly how many people have received the security clearances necessary to even be briefed on these issues. The foot dragging on relying upon the FBI to do those security clearances, as it has in the past, makes me wonder whether enough people have the security clearances today to be read in on the major threats to the country. That's happened in the past. It's not clear exactly right now the extent to which it's happening. And that makes that information sharing on critical national security issues very, very difficult.
Professor Heath Brown of the City University of New York, it's great to have your perspective on this. Thanks for joining me on this Friday night.
Thank you.